Hi friends, Aitherea here, and today I'm going to talk about things that I think we take for granted in Final Fantasy XIV. What inspired this video is that I have been trying out some different MMOs during this current downtime in 14 that will be ending in about a week from now, but anywho, the games I've been playing have been WoW and Guild Wars 2, although I am not very deep into Guild Wars 2 because I've mostly been trying WoW, and then a bunch of people in my Discord server were trying Guild Wars 2 and they hyped it up and I just ended up really wanting to play. I got influenced. So when I started playing those games, there were definitely some things that I noticed that I was just like, man, I can't believe this game doesn't do this or doesn't have this, or 14 does it better, or I just wish that this game did it like 14, and it almost made me feel like spoiled or pampered by some of the features that Final Fantasy XIV has. So let's just get into it. First up, this might seem really silly, but Final Fantasy XIV allows you to zoom in to your character and just kind of look at your character's face and upper body. It has a pretty good zoom. Another thing with the zoom in feature in Final Fantasy XIV is you can also hold control and then use the up or down arrow on your keyboard to like tilt the camera up or down to get an even better look at your character. The problem with WoW and Guild Wars 2 though is you literally cannot do that. You cannot zoom into your character's face. You can zoom in like a little bit, but what happens is you keep zooming, and it just goes into first person, and you just cannot get as close up as you can in 14, because I feel like in 14 you can get a pretty good look at your character without having to go into Gpose, where, like I said, Guild Wars 2 and WoW, they both turn into just like first person camera, and it's so annoying. I'm like, I just want to look at my character's face and see how her face looks with her outfit, or how the top of her outfit, I just want to look, and it's kind of really frustrating. Similarly, neither of those games, Guild Wars 2 or WoW, have a photo mode. Okay, so we are very spoiled apparently to have Gpose because the other games don't have it. Now, WoW is a very modded game. It's very mod heavy. That's part of the culture of WoW, is you basically download this software called CurseForge, and it kind of just has a bunch of different mods that you can use. Lots of it can be like UI or HUD, HUD mods. But there is one particular mod that acts as a photo mode, but it's just not as good. The thing is, it's just not as good as Gpose. The user face isn't as friendly, and I'm not trying to like shade it too hard because I'm sure somebody created this mod, like a player, I'm assuming. I don't really know how this works. I think like WoW kind of runs on third-party / player-made mods, so it's like I'm not trying to shade it, but it just has nothing on Gpose. It just has nothing. It's better than nothing. It's definitely better than nothing. But I think what bothers me about it the most is it really changes the lighting of the game. Because, like, first of all, what it does is it gives you, like, this 3D model of your character. And the lighting is so different. Like, her skin color always looks different. And even with that mod, I can't seem to just zoom into my character. Because when you open the mod, you'll see your actual character. And then you'll see, like, this 3D model that the mod creates. It just isn't it. It just isn't it. Like, I want to take a picture of my character in the lighting settings of the game, and then like in Gpose, if the lighting's not enough, you can kind of add a little bit and make it match the tone of the lighting around you, and this is not how this mod works. Maybe there's a better mod out there that I don't know about, because I'm a new player. My friend is the one that even found the original mod for me that I'm talking about. But either way, like I said, it does not compare to Gpose. It just really doesn't. Next, Final Fantasy XIV has a ton of quality of life features. Every now and then I hear someone or see someone online say something along the lines of, Final Fantasy's quality of life is so bad it's unplayable without mods. I'm begging you to go play Guild Wars 2, and you will get a really good sense of just how good Final Fantasy XIV's baked-in quality of life is. Now, WoW isn't as bad of a culprit for this because, I mean, WoW is missing some of the baked-in quality of life because they rely on the community mods, but you can get a lot of quality of life through the community mods. But Guild Wars 2 basically just has none because the modding for that game exists, but from my understanding is pretty limited to a couple UI mods, and they might not be able to do all the things that you can do that is just baked in to Final Fantasy XIV. So for example, in Final Fantasy XIV, some of the baked in quality of life that I'm talking about is just being able to rearrange your HUD or your UI, things like that, making windows bigger or smaller. You can do that within the HUD itself, but you can also just right click them and put it up to 200%. You can make them more or less transparent. There's just like all sorts of things that you can do with your HUD and all that in 14, okay? But then beyond that is things like text. How big is the text, and how big are the windows? Because not only can you just like adjust the window size by right clicking and putting it up to 200%, you can also adjust the size of things kind of like based on your resolution. There's like different stuff that you can do in the system settings menu with that to sort of adjust the size of all of the elements on the page. So it's like if you are adjusting them and they're still not big enough, you can like change stuff in the system settings to make it bigger. And then I had to do that when I got a new monitor. I got a 1440 monitor and I had to do that. But then they added a 1440 setting, which I haven't gone back and tried because I've been too lazy, because I'm like, I don't want to have to redo all that. But yeah, so that's some of it. And especially like the text, I think being able to like change the size just in the text box, and you don't even just get to change it to like, oh, big, bigger, medium, small. It's literally got like numbers for you, like 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 20. Like, it's so good. It's so good. And in Guild Wars 2, I cannot see crap. Okay, I have astigmatism a little bit. I wear contact lenses, so I don't have like that great a vision. I'm nearsighted actually. But like, holy crap, I'm like, especially with my monitor's not even that big, okay? I think it's like 27 inches. I can't see crap in Guild Wars 2. I've made them things bigger and I still can't see. And I'm just like, where is the quality of life for this? It doesn't exist. Again, WoW not as bad for that because it has mods. But then another really big one that I wish WoW had, and maybe there's a mod for this, maybe not, but it's like color coding the names, and Guild Wars 2, as far as I'm aware, doesn't have this either. This was a relatively recently added feature in 14, and by recent I mean I feel like it was maybe like a year ago at this point. I don't know, it's been a while, but it's like somewhat recent, which is that they added the color coding of names by role. So like when you see people in your party list and they're like walking around with you in the dungeon or whatever, the tank will be blue, the healer will be green, the DPS will be red, and you can actually customize those colors as well. And then you can also have those colors not just on their nameplates, but also within like the text box as well, so that when somebody types, you're like, oh, that's the DPS who just sent that message, that's the tank that just sent that message. And it's so good. It's so freaking good. There's like so much useful quality of life stuff in 14 that it really boggles my mind when people complain. And that's not to say that there's not more that they can do, but it's really impressive how much they've done already, and the fact that they just keep adding stuff. They just keep adding stuff. Literally coming 7.3, there's also going to be some changes made to like Gpose, some for like doing portrait mode photos and adjusting like, I think some of the filters or depth of field, like all this crap. And they added depth of field recently. Like there's so much stuff that they add, and that's just Gpose. Okay, but there's like so much other quality of life that they add. Like since I started playing the game thing, I've been playing for like 5 years. There's been so much. It's ridiculous. And they just keep adding it. And it's so impressive and so incredible. And I'm like, other games don't have it. And I'm just, again, we're all taking it for granted. We are all taking it for granted. Another thing that I didn't even realize I was taking for granted in Final Fantasy XIV is the ability to mix and match fashion. That just seems like something every game would have, right? Like it seems like it should just be obvious. Like, I have this really cool top, I'm gonna put it with this skirt that's not from the same fashion set or gear set, but I can do that. But that's apparently, I don't know, you can't really do that in WoW or Guild Wars 2. I mean, you can in both games, but it's just not as good, and let me explain why. So, in World of Warcraft, at least for the role that I'm playing, the class that I'm playing, which is Priest, a lot of the gears are like one piece. So even if the gear shows up on her body as like a crop top and a skirt, it counts as one piece. So I can't be like, oh, I like the top of that, and I just want the top of that, and I want to put it with a different bottom. They do have some amount of sets where it's like, here's a shirt, here's a skirt, and you can transmog that over your gear, even if your gear is just like the one piece thing that I'm talking about. It exists, but it just doesn't feel like there's as many options as Final Fantasy XIV has. Similarly with Guild Wars 2, if you want to mix and match your gears, So there's two ways that you can kind of like, I guess, glam your gear in that game. The first is outfits, and this is just, you could consider it a one piece in 14, where like it is a whole outfit, kind of like the Omega outfit or some of the NPC outfits, where it's like a whole glam, but it only takes up one slot in 14, where in this game it's like, here's the outfit, that's what it looks like. You're not mixing and matching the top from that outfit with anything. It's just, here's your one piece glam, right? So that apparently is free to use. But if you want to do mixing and matching with different gear pieces, you have to pay. And I don't necessarily mean real money. I think you can pay real money for it, but you can grind the item that you need in the game. It's called like a transmutation charge or something along those lines. And this wouldn't be a big deal if they were as easy to get as glamour prisms are, because remember in 14 you need glamour prisms to store stuff in your glamour dresser, and then you apply that to place and then apply that anywhere for free, blah blah blah, right? But in Guild Wars 2, you need these transmutation charges, and apparently they're nowhere near as easy to get as the glam prisms, so you have to do a bit of grinding, put in a bit of work, or you have to pay money. So that makes it harder to like mix and match and have that creativity that you can have in Final Fantasy XIV with your glams. So personally, I find that really disappointing. I mean, another thing similar to that in Guild Wars 2 is you cannot just easily change your hair, like your hairstyle, your hair color. You have to, again, pay with an item, and that is either like a $5 item, or again, you can farm it in game, but it's not just this like easy item to get. And it's crazy because they have an unlimited one, but apparently it's about 115 USD or a long grind. And I just think that's ridiculous. I really do. I get that Guild Wars 2 is kind of a free-to-play game. You can be free-to-play in that game, but really, it seems like it kind of pushes you to buy to play, because if you don't buy any of the expansions, you can't unlock a lot of the different like specs and elite specs and all this crap, and there's just a lot of stuff that you can't do, and a lot of things like that kind of shoot you in the leg, like you can't have a mount if you don't buy any expansion. So you know, it's buy to play, but it's not a sub-based game, so it's like it can kind of get away with doing that a little bit more, because it's like they gotta make money somewhere. But I hate it. I'm just gonna say it. I hate it. I think it's stupid. I think I should be able to change my hair whenever I want. And yeah, I guess maybe I take that for granted in Final Fantasy XIV. However, WoW has a really cool system for the makeovers and hairstyles and all that, which in WoW, you can kind of, like, it's like the equivalent of a Fantasia, except it's within your race. So it's like you talk to the barber, change your hair, change your eye color, change your face shape, change everything. You can even change your gender as long as you stay within your race. But yeah, the whole hairstyle change thing not being a thing in Guild Wars 2 is painful. I got a little sidetracked, but going back to glamour stuff, the dye system in 14 is fantastic, especially since we got 2 dye channels. I know a lot of us were kind of grumpy about, and still are, about the way some things dye, because there are some things that's like, oh, why does it dye this way? Why doesn't this have a dye channel? And the thing is, we are still taking the dyeing system for granted, because guess what? World of Warcraft does not even have dyes. You cannot dye your gear in that game. It is, oh, it's horrible. And it's funny because what they do is they'll just make like several of the same exact glam. Like I have this like sarong skirt, and they just make it in like several colors. But the fact that you can't dye definitely makes it harder if you are trying to like mix and match pieces. Definitely makes it harder to actually get them to match, because you can't dye them the same color. And it's like, oh, the gold on this like armor chest plate is not the same as the gold in the sarong. The gold on the chest plate is like a little bit lighter, but the sarong is a little deeper. It's actually really frustrating, because especially in 14, I do not like it when things are the same color but not the same shade, right? So like you have white and white are the same color, but you can have a blue-based white, or you can have a more like yellowy toned white, right? I cannot stand it when you have a blue-based white with that more creamy colored yellowy white. They don't look right together. They don't go together, okay? They don't look good. I can't stand it, so I'm gonna have that struggle in WoW for sure. Guild Wars 2, I haven't really gotten to explore the dye system that much, but I have heard it's very good, possibly even overwhelming, to be honest. And with the one outfit that I was gifted by my friends to help me in the game, I do have the same issue as 14, where it's like I'm trying to dye it a color that I like, but certain parts, even though it has 4 dye channels compared to 14's 2, certain parts of it still just don't dye the way that I want them to, so maybe that's a problem in every game. All right, this next one is kind of a funny one, and it is actually the product of something kind of often considered bad in 14, but it's slide casting. I've realized playing WoW that I really like slide casting in Final Fantasy 14, and now I'm not even a tryhard, okay? I'm not one of those people who like waits and tries to slide cast at the very moment it's possible to slide cast. But I realized playing WoW that I must be slide casting a ton in 14 without realizing it. Because in WoW, I think that my cast bar has reached the end and I move and it cancels. And it cancels. So I am probably in 14 letting my cast reach relatively close to the end and then moving. And it's such a weird thing because both WoW and 14 are games where they are tab-based games. They are games that have cast bars and stuff. But I feel so much more mobile in 14 because of slide casting, and I realized playing WoW how much I like slide casting and how much I think it's kind of actually fun. And I don't know, just like I said, it makes me feel a little bit more mobile in the game. Guild Wars 2 is a different beast. I don't know if... I feel like there's skills there. I feel like there's a lot of movement in that game. Because I'm not very far, but so far it seems like all of the skills I have, I can kind of just use while moving. So it's not really an issue there, but just something that compared to WoW, I realized, wow, I really enjoy slide casting. Literally had this video edited and uploaded and realized that I forgot a very significant talking point, which is the story. I think that sometimes we take the story for granted, especially this expansion with Dawn Trail. But playing WoW, something that I noticed, it's not that WoW necessarily has a bad story. WoW has a ton of lore. The problem is that WoW does not really care about the story, and it doesn't push you to care about it either. When I first started playing, I was so confused about what was going on. I had no clue. There were all these characters that I didn't know. There was all this past lore that I didn't know, and it was just so confusing. And for better or worse, Final Fantasy XIV makes you start at the beginning. If you're someone who likes story-driven games, Final Fantasy XIV is absolutely for you, because there is a really great story with a lot of effort put into it that you get to play through. And you're not just left super confused wondering where to start, because that's the thing with WoW. Even though you can choose to play through any of the stories, it's hard to figure out where to start. The game doesn't really guide you that well. Where with 14, it's just like, here you go. You're in the world, and you're playing, starting in A Realm Reborn and playing all the way through all of the expansions. But yeah, personally, I love Final Fantasy XIV's story, and I do think that it's possible that we take it for granted that MMOs come with stories. I know before I played 14, I actually felt the opposite way, but now that I've been playing 14 as like my only MMO for about 4 or 5 years, I think closer to 5, I don't want to think about that, it's been so long, I don't like the way that time moves. I definitely now have this expectation when trying new MMOs, like, where's the story? And the last thing I think we take for granted about Final Fantasy XIV, and I know some people are really hard gonna disagree with me here, but it's the fact that Final Fantasy XIV doesn't have specs. So WoW has this system called talents, and I think in Guild Wars 2 they call it specs, but it's different in both games, but it's essentially this idea that you get these talents, as they say in WoW, or specs that sort of change the way that your job plays, or sort of affects the skills that you have in different ways to make them slightly different, slightly better. It's the idea of builds. So the reason that I think we take it for granted in 14 is because, especially playing WoW or trying out WoW, the talent system I find is incredibly overwhelming. It is insane. I will show you. I have this mod that shows me all of the talents I have affecting my skills, like a given skill. So when you hover over the skill, you'll see like an entire book, an essay of talents that are affecting this skill. That's ridiculous. It's incredibly overwhelming, especially as a new player. And even in 14, there are skill combinations or, skills that affect other skills, like on Sage, how Physis gives you this little healing buff, right? So that affects skills like Caracol. It affects skills like Hollow, so you can actually get a bigger Hollow shield doing that. So these skill interactions are a thing in 14, but they're baked in and they're not overwhelming, they're not crazy. Where in games like WoW, these skill interactions become overwhelming because there's so many of them that it's so hard to keep track of. And it feels like reading a novel just to figure out how your skills work. And it's going to take me a really, really long time probably to figure out how my skill interactions work because it's just exhausting. It's just exhausting. Now, I don't have a lot of experience with Guild War 2 specs, so maybe they're actually really cool. Maybe they're actually not so bad. But at the end of the day, I think it's good to have different flavors of games, right? Why should 14 be exactly like those other games? Like, I'm personally somebody who likes simplicity. I don't really like builds. I don't find them fun. I don't really find them that interesting. And for me, I'm the kind of person that would just look it up online. Now, I actually did read all of the talents in WoW as I went and picked the ones that I thought were cool, but I have been told by some of my WoW friends who are long-term players that especially if you're going to be doing the more difficult content in WoW, the more like Raider-esque content, it's an illusion of choice is what I've been told, is that you can't really play with the talent, the build that you want to play, because there is going to be a build that is the meta. And unlike 14, where 14 has a bit of a meta, but you can go in Party Finder and still play whatever you want. No one's going to really stop you. No one's going to, like, nobody really locks their party out. You know what I mean? Unless you're a world first raider, like, you're not getting locked out. You know what I mean? But in WoW, they actually will. They will not take you along in their party if you are not playing the spec that they think you should, that's the meta. They won't do it. So the talents and the specs and all that matter a lot more in WoW. And I think that's really frustrating because it takes a system that could be interesting and fun. And here's my thing with WoW's talent system too, is that I don't necessarily think that a build system or a spec system or whatever is bad. I find it overwhelming, and I don't necessarily like it in games. I do prefer the simplicity of 14, where you just get on the job, and as you level up, you get new skills, you read your tooltips, and you just play. Like, it's not this whole, I need to, like, study a guide, read a novel, all this crap. You can figure out how to play your job on your own. Yes, you're not going to be amazing at first, but over time, you will get there. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of beautiful in the simplicity of how easy it is to figure out how to play stuff. And I'm not saying that there isn't stuff that you can't learn from other players, because even for me, I was talking about the Sage skill interactions. I learned that from a Momo-sama video. Like, I was not really understanding Sage when I first picked it up. Watch that video. I get it a lot more now, and the more that you learn about these jobs in 14, the more you can apply that knowledge to other jobs to figure them out and to figure out their skill interactions. So it all kind of works together. It's like I said, it's simple and you can figure it out yourself. Where I feel like in WoW, there's a lot more like mathematics involved. But like I was trying to say before I got a little bit tangenty there, if the system wasn't as big as it was, because it's like so many freaking talents, it's this whole big tree, and there's, like I said, a whole paragraph, a whole essay to read for all these skills affecting one single skill. It's ridiculous. If it wasn't so big and it was just like a handful of talents that you could choose from, I probably wouldn't mind it, like 10 or less. I would be like, that's more fun. You can choose some fun little things to do with your skills, but it's not that. It's crazy. It's overwhelming, it's egregious. Some people love it, but I don't. And even if this is something that you're into, I still am gonna argue, like tooth and nail, this is a hill that I will die on, that we cannot homogenize all of our MMOs. All of our MMOs should not be the same flavor. They should offer us different things, so that if you're a person that doesn't like WoW, you can play Final Fantasy XIV, and you might like Final Fantasy XIV because it's not WoW. And vice versa. If you're tired of Final Fantasy XIV, maybe you don't like the tab targeting system a lot, there's probably a game out there with action combat, maybe Throne in Liberty or something. And even Guild Wars 2, even though it does have some tab targeting, it's different. It has a dodge where you have to like press a button to roll. That is not something, it's kind of similar to like an iframe. That's not something 14 has. So all of these games have their strengths and weaknesses, and they can learn from each other and improve, but it's ridiculous to expect them all to be the same. So that's why I do think, even if you disagree with me, you may be taking this simplicity of Final Fantasy XIV's skills and the lack of specs and build for granted. But who knows? They have been, I don't know, teasing that there might be some job changes and things in 8.0, so maybe we'll get some light builds, because what's happening in 14, we're level 100 now, we kind of need to do some sort of crunch, or the devs do probably need to do some sort of crunch, so we'll see what's to come. But if they do bring in anything like that, I hope they keep that spirit of simplicity that Final Fantasy XIV has. So that's it. Those are all of the things that I think we are taking for granted in Final Fantasy XIV. Honestly, the QOL is really the biggest one. That and being able to just zoom in and look at your character. I can't believe the other games don't have that. It just boggles my mind. But yeah, that's everything I think we've been taking for granted. And if you have any things that you think we might be taking for granted that I haven't mentioned, please leave them in the comments below. Please consider leaving a sacrifice for Lord Algorithm in the form of a like, comment, share, or subscribe. As always, thank you for watching, and thank you so much to my channel members for supporting me. Bye!